I think that's a conversation that the church could and should be having right now of like, what is worship? And then how do we facilitate that within a service? How do we facilitate that within a congregation? And how do we facilitate that within individuals? I don't know. I have lots of big thoughts right now.
Between the Grooves is hosted by James Curtis, music director and morning man in the Greater Toronto Area on Joy Radio. Hosts James Curtis talk to artists and industry insiders to discover the connection between music and faith. You can connect with the show at faithstrongtoday.com/betweenthegrooves or via Twitter @betweengrooves.
Welcome to Between the Grooves, episode 215. It's your look at music, ministry, and everything in between with today's top Christian artists. And this week, a great chat with Chris Cron and Ben Thompson of All Creatures. These guys aren't new to the music industry. In fact, they've been artists in their own right for some time. A chance meeting, a collaboration, and the creation of All Creatures. We'll hear their story, see how they got their name, talk a little bit about their label, church culture, touring, live shows, and so much more. Let's get into our conversation with Chris and Ben from All Creatures.
Nice to meet you, James.
Nice to meet you as well. Nice to meet Neon Feather as well.
Yeah,
that's right.
There you go.
Wait, go get him. Go get him.
Oh yeah, no, he's not here right now.
He's not here right now.
This is Ben Thompson, the All Creatures band member. Not,
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Like Bruce Wayne.
Right. Exactly. Well, great to have you guys here. It's amazing through the magic of technology. We are in 3 different cities and 3 different studios in North America. I'm in Toronto. Chris, you're in Nashville. Ben, you're in North Carolina.
I am.
It is
the
true.
Entire state.
Exactly. It is truly. You'll like this. It is truly wonder-working.
Wow. We are working wonders.
I'm sorry.
With technology.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that, guys. Your song "Wonder-Working" is at the top of the charts. Go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
don't know how, man.
Have no words.
Completely unexpected?
Yeah, I purposefully went into this project with no expectations, other than to have fun with Ben, and we did. And then it just I keep telling people I don't know exactly how to connect to this because I'm sitting in my studio working on other people's tracks, and then I get an email every Monday saying, hey, it's at number 8. It's at number 5 on the chart. Hey, it's on number 1. It's been at number 1 for 3 weeks. Like, what do I make of this? What is happening? Do I get a trophy? Like, what?
Well, no. You get the recognition. You get a lot of airplay. But, a lot of people don't recognize all the work that has happened prior to this happening anyways. When you hear of a new band or a new band has just started charting, or a band, I should say, not a new band, but a band has just started charting, you don't know about all the work and the sweat and the tears that have gone before that. You just know that you're starting to hear something what you consider to be new, and you think, wow, good for those guys. Good for those guys just starting out. Well, you guys haven't just started out. You guys have been around for a while. You're just starting to reap the rewards of all that hard work, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's probably the conception that it's like we woke up one day and was like, hey, man, like, maybe we should try this music thing. And then just put out a song.
Or that we were literally born yesterday and then just happened to become adult males and make music.
It's definitely a wild, long ride. I would say to some degree I've been, to some level, pursuing music professionally for coming up on 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it definitely is. And being somebody who has never lived in a music city, or like, I've never really had my finger on the pulse of the music industry. I've always been very much an outsider. It's been like just wandering in the dark. So that's part of the reason why it's taken me so many years, because nobody's kind of like telling me where to go or what to do. But I just keep walking through like the next open door, I guess, and I'm stoked about this open door with Chris. This is like about the most fun I've had in a long time, so this is great.
How about you, Chris? How long have you been doing the music thing?
Oh, at the risk of giving my age away, professionally, almost 20 years. So, yeah, I was 2 years old when I started.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so a while. It started with a band in high school, and then we just did the whole, club scene in Orange County, California, where I'm from. And we weren't a Christian band. It's just some friends from high school playing pop rock, a la Weezer and Fountains of Wayne back in the day. And yeah, we toured all over the U.S., did the Warped Tour in 2004, got signed to Warner Brothers at some point, got big in Japan, and then I moved to Tennessee. That's the very, very Cliff Notes version of it, but yeah, about 20 years. We moved to Tennessee, and I quit music for a year, cold turkey. I still do now, but I tap on things, and I whistle and hum, and I'm always making music sometimes.
And you play the radio too, so that's
exactly.
Yeah.
And I stopped doing all of that for a while. It just because that's a whole other conversation. But I had just kind of made music an idol for a while and needed to cut it off. So yeah, but my wife encouraged me to kind of lean into that season for a while, and then music came back through roundabout ways, and then I met Ben through a contact from a guy at my church. I was trying to pitch a song to this artist, Jordan Feliz.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, never. Who?
Yeah.
And his A&R was like, oh yeah, the record's closed, but I've heard your name around town. I don't know where it's from. And I tried to come up with ways he might have heard my name, and I sent him one of my own personal songs, and he put two and two together and was like, whoa, you were in this band Melee, which was my old band, and which I thought was weird because the only people that knew my old band were 16-year-old Japanese girls, and he was a 61-year-old guy from Franklin, Tennessee.
Right.
So he ended up kind of putting me in the room with a few people, and one of those people was Ben.
And that's how you guys met for the first time.
That's how we met for the first time.
So, first impressions.
Oh,
this guy is
that's
tall.
a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember because we met. What was it, like 2017?
Yeah.
And we wrote that day, and that was a great song. It was a song that I put out as Neon Feather called "Between You and Me," and I actually ended up. This kind of, I guess, is kind of tacky. I don't really know if it's lame or if it's cool, but I ended up playing that song at my wedding because I sort of wrote it more or less about my relationship with my wife when we were dating. And so then we ended in integrating that song into our first dance at our wedding. But some people thought it was a little indulgent. Some people thought it was cool or cute, but it is what it is.
It's on the fence.
I don't know. If you tell your future wife, I want to do this because I wrote it for you, then it's touching, right?
Exactly. There you go. That's what.
Yeah, as long as she liked it.
Yeah.
It's not like I got royalties off of it or something.
Right.
But yes. So yeah, and then we didn't do anything after that song for a little while, and then Chris sent me, or somehow I heard like a project that Chris did with his church, and I heard one of the songs on that called Safe, and I just loved it and wanted to do a version of it, and that's when we really realized that we had great creative chemistry.
There's
and we started hanging
here,
out
kid.
Yeah, we started hanging out more and realized, dude, we really get along and we're really good friends, and it's just this refreshing sense of like neither one of us having any like motives or like, I don't know,
pretense.
We just kind of, no pretense, and just really honest, and it just felt very, Safe, I guess.
I see what you did there.
See that, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. So it feels like a friend that I would have made like in high school and like
Same.
yeah.
But
So.
was it the sort of thing where you would collaborate together but wouldn't necessarily form a group together? Because here you've actually created this group called All Creatures. That's kind of the next step. Mm-hmm. The next step in the relationship. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
DTR.
I think Safe was really where we started to think maybe we should do more of this, because it was veering away from like the purely electronic Neon Feather thing. And doing Safe kind of like already was a little bit of a deviation from what I would normally do as Neon Feather.
And likewise for me too. It felt like a genuine like meeting of our two different worlds.
Mm-hmm. And a new sound, I suppose, too, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it just felt like I didn't want to limit what we would naturally do together by like needing it to make sense under like a different banner. So we were just like, well, if we make this a separate thing, then we can kind of chase that rabbit and not worry about whether it makes sense under some other umbrella.
Yeah. And neither of us had really had intentions of becoming like the faces of a CCM project at that point. We were just, I was doing my thing, he was doing his thing, and they were both sort of fringe Christian projects. But neither of us had the intention of like, let's start a band that's going to rise up the charts in Christian radio. We just started making stuff together and making stuff that felt natural, and a really cool progression to see that kind of just turn into this thing. And so then we had to come up with a name for it. And
so did the name All Creatures come before or after signing a deal with Dream Records?
It was before Dream, but definitely after much deliberation.
We were going to call ourselves Search Party.
Yeah.
And then I'm so glad we didn't use that, because it just sounds like some lame 70s Christian band name.
Right. Well, and if, down the road, 20 years down the road, you could do where are they now? Well, let's send out a search party. Sorry.
Yeah, man, it's got longevity,
you, Lord.
It's got,
it does.
If nothing else, it's got that. Yeah, we just bounced so many names around, dude. It was like, dude, I just didn't think we'd ever find one that felt right. It felt like it was always going to be arbitrary, It's just like, well, we have to pick something. So, 5 guys it is,
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it was, honestly, Chris, I think you came up with All Creatures. I think you mentioned it, and it just was like, oh.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh.
You knew it right away? Like as soon as you heard the name, it was like, yeah, that's it.
Oh, man, it hit the spot. I think after you've heard like 100 other band name ideas, and then you hear the right one, it just like jumps off the page.
Right.
I think we were also looking for something that kind of fit our ethos and our kind of what we're about. And I'm a fan of old hymns, and so obviously it comes from the All Creatures of Our God and King hymn. And but we both feel like we want to express to people that they are uniquely loved by God the way they are, and they don't have to conform to some preconceived idea of what a Christian is, or what what a culture says they are, that they have been crafted to be exactly who they are by God. And so All Creatures of Our God and King just seem to fit naturally with what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always wanted the name and kind of the overall banner of the project to not set us apart or above the audience or the people who are coming along for the ride. And that in some way the band name would refer to the community around the band as much as the people in the band. So, that's why, that's part of the reason why we were thinking of Search Party, because it's like, oh, come join the Search Party. Like, we're all on the team. And so All Creatures kind of hit that note as well, where it's like, we all are God's creation. So it's not just us. It's like the whole squad's here.
And it has some C.S. Lewis points in it too. So
I do like your comment about the fact that what I'm hearing anyways, when you think about church culture and you think about all inclusivity, a lot of times, you have this perception of church being a club, and either you're part of the club or you're not part of the club. And if you are part of the club, this is the way you do life. Like this is the cookie cutter approach on how we do things. You go to church, you do this, you hang out with these friends, you live this kind of lifestyle, which I think is being flushed down the toilet now with the whole pandemic and the way life has changed. Online church. And now getting back into church again, and that seems to be a little different and more relational now between, you've got the relationship with God, but also relationships with other people that probably is a little different than it was before.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah. That's so true.
I think it's a necessary change. It's very much in Tennessee, at least. Feels like church can be a country club, where a certain type of people get in and or go. And I just think, Jesus challenged all of that when he came on the scene, eating and drinking with tax collectors and sinners and prostitutes and fishermen and the outsiders of the community. He welcomed them all in, and it was the religious authorities, the whitewashed tombs, if you want to say, that he had a problem with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's tough because it's. I think it's natural for us to want to simplify concepts, and we want to distill truths down to consistent prescriptions that we can kind of like rely on and not have to have too many gray areas or questions. And the more things we can fit into boxes, the better. And so I sympathize with the heart. It's one of those things where like the desire is, okay, there are ways of living that the Bible, obviously there's ways that life has been designed to go, and there's like just ways that we should interact with each other, ways we should lead ourselves, and postures that we should have our hearts in toward our God and toward our life and our neighbors. And so it's just so easy to want to just brush away all the fog, clear out all the cobwebs, and just make it this clear-cut path. And then over generations, it becomes, well, if you're not living, it just becomes this overly well-worn path where there's just no
room for
deviation. And
deviation,
it's just no flexibility. I think, like, I just would hate to throw the baby out with the bathwater with the concept of there is a lot of good and there's a lot of like right and wrong. There, like you just can't get around the fact that there is right and there is wrong in the world.
Totally.
So it's just tough that like it's an ongoing struggle that nobody's ever going to be able to write a book or like other than I guess the Bible, but nobody's gonna like really be able to distill it down to like here's how to live rightly. And also, like, just it's so nuanced, and it's just hard to not turn church into a club while also being like, yes, there are right and wrongs in the world. So
part of the club is the whole Christianese, experience, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And the problem I have with that is without pointing any fingers and without generalizing too much, I find that a lot of times we as Christ followers tend to speak this different language and almost sound like, can I say, the religious leaders of Jesus' time, which is pretty scary. Because then
about that all the time.
What about all the other people that we're trying to reach, and they're looking at us saying, exactly what was said in Jesus' time?
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, the in crowd lingo is it's such a hard thing to get away from, because it's again, it's like we all have shorthand for concepts that we've all sort of, trying to think of a external example, but we you say something and everyone kind of knows what you mean, because we've all done the work to kind of like understand what that means. But then we just start saying the thing and stop thinking about what the original meaning was, and then you just start saying the phrase, and then it just again, it's just that attempt of humans to put things, to organize things, I guess, to just want to
I think it's interesting, Jesus made it, I'm going to say this and then counteract myself for a second, but Jesus made it so easy to get into the club, albeit it's a very hard thing to lay down your own life to, to like take up your cross daily to actually follow Jesus.
He made it easy for us. It wasn't easy for him.
Exactly. He made it an easy entry point, and we've built up all this stuff around it. And the religious leaders of Jesus' time did the same thing. They had all these extra Levitical laws that came. I just said a big word. That grew up around the Ten Commandments, and then Jesus came on the scene and distilled it down to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Like, he distilled it all down into those two basic points, and said, just don't worry about the fluff around that. Like, do that, and you'll be good.
Yeah.
Not that that's how we get into heaven, or that it's that's not salvation, but that's what he meant by following him. Right.
It's the overcomplication of other things beyond that are sometimes scary to see, and everybody of course is at a different level in their walk with God, and so that makes it it is difficult. I won't disqualify the fact that it is difficult for church leaders to meet the needs of their group of people that they look after, because everybody's at a different level. But I think, at the same time, the last year and a half, almost 2 years, has, shown how important it is to, have the relationship with the people, because a lot of this stuff has been happening online, right? Or on the phone, or on FaceTime, or Zoom, or whatever else. And I think that's... from what I've seen anyways, from people I know of people that have decided that, I really don't need to physically be in church much anymore because I don't need it, right? And yet maybe they do. They just don't realize it, or they're in that comfort level now because it's been long enough. You do things a number of times and it gets to become habit, and so then it's difficult to get up a little earlier and head on off to church,
Yeah, and it depends on what your in-person church experience has been.
True, yeah,
totally.
Because if it's like, I think there's something about meeting in person that should be energizing and should be really edifying. But if you're getting everything else at home, which is great, and you're getting fed, spiritually, and you're being encouraged through worship and refocusing your personal kind of goals and mission for the week through just being reminded about some truths that morning, so much of that scratches the itch just by going online, that the roll of the dice of depending on what your in-person experience is or has been, it's like, man, it's either really energizing or really draining to like, depending on the culture of whatever people's church experience has been.
Yeah.
It's just hard to find that like authentic, really building up, sharing each other's burdens kind of culture that we're called to have as a church community.
I think we're at a really good, like, a hard but good crossroads with the way we do church in the West. It's a moment that we can reevaluate and really tune our church experience to be what it should be, and maybe like look at all of the extra stuff that we've put along with it. It all kind of goes back to that. Like, what have we built up around this that doesn't need to be there? What is alienating people? What is actually hurting people? What is keeping people from experiencing God more fully? What are things that the church could be doing that it hasn't been doing for decades? It opens that conversation up, which I think is good. But I think we just need to make changes now.
And I think a lot of changes have been made, a lot of positive changes.
Yeah,
I was at a conference a couple of years ago. This was, pre-pandemic. And one of the questions that was being asked was, how long does the Church of North America have to still be relevant? And my prediction on that was, I don't know, maybe 5 years. Because I was thinking of a lot of churches out there that are, and I'll put in quotes, old-fashioned. And what I mean by old-fashioned is this is the way we do church, and we've always done it this way, and we're not going to change. We're just going to continue doing it this way, right? And and that's the reason why I predicted that, because I thought to myself, okay, what about the young people, that are just now starting to attend church or maybe considering attending church, and they look at it and say, this is not relevant to the way I live life. And so I think in the last year and a half with the pandemic, it's forced churches to have an online option for people to participate in church, and also to get the heck onto Facebook and Instagram and Twitter or whatever else where they never were before. My brother's a pastor, so I hear from him, and one of the things he's mentioned to me in the past, how there's so many different modes of communication, where some people are on Facebook, so they'll send him a note, a message on Messenger through Facebook to get a hold of him. Others might be on Twitter, and they'll send him a DM. Other people might be on Instagram. Everybody's at a different level. Everybody's on a different platform, and so you have to, as a church, have the ability to adapt and to be able to meet the needs of the people on all these different levels. You can't just say, well, we're just on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I happen to be on Twitter, and so I guess my pastor doesn't care about me because I sent him a note and he never responds, or whatever, Some might be email, some might like phone calls, Everybody's at a different level. So I think what the pandemic has done is forced churches to get on board specifically with technology that they should have years ago.
Yeah.
Dude, churches should open their own Discord servers. That I had never thought about that, but like Discord is such a community-based little like thing. They should do. I wonder if there's churches there that have opened up Discord servers.
Maybe. My son is on. My son is 20 years old. He's on Discord. He raves about it. I'm not on Discord. It's the best thing since sliced bread, according to him. But it's the community that he's built or that he's participated in. And you're right, it might be the option because that can be the foundation for all the other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could have really great small groups on there because you can do audio calls, but then also just have like different little organized threads depending on like if there's lighthearted stuff or more serious stuff. You can have different kind of threads running simultaneously, and then maybe like do weekly audio calls on there. Man, there's something there.
I think the in-person thing has got to continue though, because I do.
Oh, for sure.
I do think that and I feel like maybe church size needs to be looked at. Like maybe churches don't need to be 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people. Maybe people would be better served if churches were smaller.
Yeah. And I think too that, church, that's a term that kind of means a lot of different things. And I would sooner be having coffee with you guys at a coffee shop talking than necessarily going to a Sunday morning service where I have to dress up and I sit in a pew or on a chair and I have to go through this. Go through this. I mean, it sounds like punishment, but go through this predetermined. Here's what we're going to do for the next hour and a half, or whatever. We're going to do 20 minutes of praise and worship. Then we're going to have 5 minutes for announcements or video announcements or whatever. And then we're going to have to do this. And then we're going to do this. And then we get the message that's going to be 35 minutes long. And that's our cookie cutter approach. And this is the way we do things here. I would sooner have coffee with you guys at the coffee shop than go to that.
Yeah. I think, I agree. I totally agree. And I think this is a moment where we can take a bigger look at those words and what they mean. Like, what is worship?
Yeah.
Is worship really just this 20 minutes of music on a Sunday morning? If that's all it is, then I think we're probably missing it. 'Cause I don't know, over the past several years, I've kind of come to an understanding that worship is a life. It's not a song. And so I don't know, I think that's a conversation that the church could and should be having right now of like, what is worship? And then how do we facilitate that within a service? How do we facilitate that within a congregation, and how do we facilitate that within individuals? I don't know. I have lots of big thoughts right now.
You do, man.
How far off track are we from talking about all creatures, though?
Seriously, we are very far, but I don't mind.
No, it's been,
we're still talking about all God's creatures.
Well, true. That's true. That's right. See, this is bigger than just the two guys in a band, right?
Yes,
that's exactly right.
Exactly.
But speaking of the two guys in a band, you guys signed with Dream Records, which my impression is Dream is not an ordinary label. My impression is that it's more of a la carte, versus some of this is the way we do things in Nashville. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, So I'm curious. First of all, what attracted you? Was that what attracted you to Dream Records? And I also wanted to find out from you guys what they do for you. What do you do yourself, and what could they do?
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? Because there's certain things that they could do it for you, but no, we got it. And so that if you're keeping costs down and you want to do that yourself, great. That's the impression I get about Dream Records. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is. Yeah.
You are very right.
So Lance is kind of the dude at Dream. He's the only person I have ever interacted with.
Well, he's the big boss.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much him.
We've tried to get him on the show, just so you know. And this was right as the pandemic was starting, and I think his wife was under the weather or sick or whatever, and she was home for a bit because she's his right-hand man as well with his schedule and stuff. And it just never materialized. I would still love to get him on the show, just so you know. But yeah, he is the big wig. He is the
He's
the
a
top
busy
dog.
boy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like he is both the boss and the janitor. He is in the weeds. He really is crazy. It's like the undercover boss, but like all the time. The hustle, man. So I met him years ago. He's always been a fan of what I do as Neon Feather, and he's always kind of been putting a bug in my ear for like, hey, we should do some stuff together sometime. I was at Centricity for a long time as Neon Feather, and then now have since pivoted to a little bit more of a producer role with like artistry as like an optional thing. It's like I'll do the artist thing as it like makes sense, but lifestyle wise I see myself as more of a producer writer, and so pivoted to just a publishing thing with Centricity, and then on artist side it's just just me as a producer guy, just kind of independent. So that's when I was trying to figure out where I wanted a home for different projects, which ones should be totally independent, which ones need some support, what kind of support do they need. And Lance came back into my mind, and because I just knew that whatever we were to do with All Creatures, I wanted it to remain pretty like non-exclusive. I mean, like All Creatures being an exclusive deal with Dream, but my lifestyle being still kind of non-exclusive, and letting All Creatures be one outlet among several. So Dream was a great fit for that, because it's just a licensed thing, and it's not this overarching situation. It's just a nice home for what we put out as All Creatures. And the radio piece is really great over there. You know, Lance does all that himself. So
so the emails I get are from him?
Oh, yeah. Lance does all of his own radio promo.
Okay. Because I get regular emails from Dream, particularly on a Friday. But, you know, recently it's been the Dream Christmas album, volume whatever.
6.
That's right. Yeah, that's him. When in doubt, it's probably, if it's Dream, it's probably Lance. That's the great thing about them is the kind of built-in radio piece. It's just sort of, that's their big machine that kind of drives their whole thing forward. So it was just a good place for distribution and for radio stuff.
Yeah, it's been great for All Creatures because we've wanted to retain as much of our creative identity and control over what we do. And so to just kind of like you said earlier, kind of a la carte pick what we wanted out of a label, or to be able to go to a label and say, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, do you want to come alongside us and help? That's basically the relationship that we have with them. All the pieces that are missing from what we can do, like radio, like Ben said, marketing and distribution and all that, are there and in place. But then, you know, we can, between the two of us, we produce all of our own stuff. You know, our budget is basically $0 to make records. We have no overhead, which has been a huge blessing. So yeah, it's been an awesome experience so far working with Lance and Dream.
One of your bandmates, or I shouldn't say one of, because it's a group, but the boys from The Color, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to do anything with them, but I know those guys. I had breakfast with them at a music festival a few years back, and I asked them specifically. This was just a off the record type conversation I had with them. It wasn't being recorded or anything. And
but now it is.
Yeah, exactly. But one of my questions to them at that time was, why don't you guys sign with a label? And their response was, well, the problem they had with labels at that time was that they were a band. They were 2 full-time guys in the band, plus another couple of guys that would come around on tour and record with them, but they weren't full-time employees of the band, as it were. But still, there are costs, the more people that are in a band. And they basically said if we were to sign with a label, a regular label, we couldn't afford it. Like, we'd be making less money because there would be so much, a bigger percentage of the money going to the label for the services that they offer. And so when I heard that they signed with Dream, I was thinking, what a perfect fit, right? Because now they can do what they do well, and the stuff that they can do, but I mean, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should be doing it, right? And for guys like that, they might just decide, you know what, we enjoy doing this part of the job, but it's labor intensive, it takes a lot of time, so we're going to give that to Dream to do. Right?
Exactly.
And we will focus on what we should be doing, right? So just because you can do it doesn't mean you should be doing it. And so they recognize that, and they signed with Dream, as you guys have done as well. So
the Colored guys are awesome. I've had the pleasure of doing a handful of remixes for them. So we're good buddies. We stay in touch pretty regularly. And I was really happy to see that they paired up with Dream.
Yeah. And Dream has grown too. Like, if you look at their website, man, they've got a lot of people that have come on board because of that that kind of service that they offer, where it can be very as much as you want them to do or as little as you want them to do.
Yeah, that's Lance's huge strength. Is so adaptive. Like the whole "that's just how we do things" phrase it has never come out of his mouth. Really, that's not a concept for him. He's super flexible, adaptive, and innovative with like how to bring value to a situation.
Yeah, it almost caught me off guard the first time I talked to him when he said, "Well, what do you guys want out of this?"
Yeah,
right.
Like, oh, we get a say?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your music. I guess my first question is going to be with the success of Wonderworking, and of course you've got a new Christmas song that's coming out as well. Are you guys going to be touring anytime soon, or is this just kind of a basement studio, let's come up with a bunch of music and see where it goes from there?
So this is the conversation we've been having the past 2 weeks.
Okay.
Again, with having no expectations, with other than having fun and putting out music that we love and having we have something we want to say and definitely some ideas about that, but it just kind of caught us off guard that it did so well. And now the conversation is, well, like, should we play some shows?
Right.
Do we need to get out there? And I think the answer is yes. And talking to Ben, we've determined that, in 2022, we need to get out there and play. Not just to, like, promote, I hate this is even going to come out of my mouth, but promote our brand. But that I think because we like genuinely believe in this stuff, that we want to share it with people, and we want to tell people and talk to people about these ideas of faith that we have, and tell people about Jesus, and tell people about the wonder-working power of God.
And I think that.
Did you hear my cringe on that, by the way?
Yes, I did. I did that intentionally.
I think in the back of my mind, I've always felt like All Creatures needed some kind of a live show piece to this story. It just, we both kind of love playing shows. We both have families, so we're not trying to like make touring like our lifestyle per se, but I don't think either of us are like have ever like fully hung our hat up on like oh yeah, we're done playing shows. I know for me, I just love any chance I get to play shows, and I think some projects are a little bit more just consumption focused, where like Neon Feather stuff, some of that might just be more suited for playlisting and more suited for people listening in their own lives, like working out or driving or at youth group, playing over a youth group event or whatever. But All Creatures.
Uh-oh.
We just lost him.
We lost him.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to that in a second.
I can maybe finish his thought.
Okay. So can you at least sound like him?
No, I can't.
I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna try. No, I think with All Creatures it's something that it needs to be live. We both like believe in this enough that it's just a different beast live. To perform a song, it comes across. I feel like it can come across more genuinely, and you share something when you're in a room with people that you don't share over the radio.
Yeah. I will say
that's exciting to me.
I will say to his comment about touring in general and the fact that you have young families, I've chatted with numerous artists over the last 6 months to a year, especially as the pandemic was happening, and as the pandemic was somewhat ending, things opening up a bit more and touring starting to happen. The comments I'm getting are the touring isn't as extensive as it previously was, where you'd be on the road for 2 weeks or 3 weeks straight. Now it's more of a, I'm going to be gone for the next 3 days away from my family, and then I'll be back. And after that, after those 3 days or 4 days, I'm exhausted. I need some downtime with my family. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the difference I've seen, the shift that I've seen over the last few months, where you don't have these long tours where you're going to be away from your family for, a very long length of time, which is great for you guys. It'll work perfect for, next summer doing the festivals and whatnot, right?
Yeah, and my wife has a gardening business, and she's Ben, are you there?
I'm back.
Oh, Ben is back. Sorry.
Ben
Dude,
is back.
I don't even honestly know. How long has it been?
Don't worry.
Oh, it's like 30 seconds.
Chris was impersonating you for a while there, so you're good.
Dude, because I have my phone facing screen down so that my microphone is pointing away from me so it doesn't clip. And I just kept talking for a while. I was like, man, no one's really responding. And
that's right. That was a really good point. They didn't say anything about it.
And then I pulled my phone up and I was like, oh, icon screen on, like my home screen on my phone. I was like, oh, no, what happened?
Chris finished your thoughts, so you're good.
Okay, I love it. Thank you.
Chris, you were about to start on a story about your wife?
Oh, yeah. So we were talking about changing the touring thing from being gone for 2 to 3 weeks to where people just kind of go out for a few days and then they come back and spend time with their family. And I was about to tell him that, my wife started a gardening business the past couple of years. And so every year now from spring through fall, she has a CSA, which if you don't know what CSA stands for, it's Community Supported Agriculture. And so she fed 11 families this past year from all the stuff from the garden, either from direct produce or things she's made from produce out of the garden. So every week, or every other week, she's got a big pickup where they all come and pick up all their stuff. And so she's busy harvesting and washing and making products and all that stuff. So she will need me to be home for some of that. So with touring, if we can figure out a way to kind of fit within that rhythm, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It'll work out because you're in the driver's seat, right?
Yeah.
Yep. It's not like you have a label breathing down your neck to say, you've got to do this and you've got to perform here and you've got this and you're going to be there for 5 days or whatever. I got to ask you guys, who's in charge of marketing in your duo? I'm going somewhere with this.
No,
okay.
I mean, as in you're going somewhere constructive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Constructive criticism.
No. I mean, it's all good stuff. Somebody was brilliant, and I want to give them the kudos.
Oh, well, you go ahead and probably give it to Chris, because I'm hyper-focused on the music side, and I was really happy
I know where you're going.
Okay, so...
I know where you're going.
Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. All of your song titles are in box brackets.
Oh, okay.
That's actually me.
That was you?
That was Ben.
Okay, so what made you do that?
Dude, it's just... So as I was just getting ready to say that I'm hyper-focused on the music side, and that's why it's great to be with Chris, because left to my own devices... Yeah, exactly. It's great to be with somebody who just is terrible at music.
Right. I understand. Yeah.
No, I just left to my own devices. I just don't get outside of my little cave. I'm way more interested in telling the next story and writing a great song and just finding that new style, that new sound that's gonna really connect with people and inspire people. And that's really what gets me up in the morning. But the one marketing piece that sort of bleeds out of that is I'm all about building a world, and I love kind of integrating the whole experience. Maybe carving out in some. Maybe it's a little bit of an Enneagram 4 thing, but I just want my music to, in some small way, kind of be in its own little bubble, and in the deluge of Spotify and whatever you use to listen to music, you see these brackets and it takes you a way out of the monotony and into this little pocket of a world that there's some intentionality, and it's sort of like when I watch a movie or I listen to an album or something and I can see the little choices that were made, it makes me trust the big choices. Like you can tell there's a level of intention.
Yeah.
And they didn't phone it in, and you can tell whoever made this really thought about everything. And so that little bracket thing just has a certain personality to it.
It does, for sure.
That almost recontextualizes the title itself. I think Wonderworking was a great first introduction of the concept because it almost stood alone. Because it's almost like an under construction sign. It's like saying in brackets, like Wonderworking, like,
taking
under
progress,
construction.
Yeah.
Well, that's even deeper than I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think on some level it's almost surprising that they're actually gonna keep doing that. That wasn't just that song.
Oh,
but
and I hope you do. Now you do realize the other benefit to doing that, right?
Search engine optimization.
It's if you do a search, if you do an alphabetical search, it shows up first.
I didn't think about that.
And that is just brilliant. I just like and I know that because in the software that I use to program music for the radio station, I've put the brackets in there, and every time I do an alpha sort, your songs always come up at the top. And I'm thinking,
amazing.
That is just brilliant because it puts it right forefront for you. And then I'm sure it's the same for anybody else that's, on Spotify or whatever else. If you search for a style of music or an artist or whatever, what's playing on the charts right now, whatever, list you're looking at.
That's so interesting.
Alphabetically, it's showing right at the top.
Ben.
So, yeah.
I did
done.
I did it, guys.
There you go.
I'm gonna look at a playlist that we're on and see if I sort alphabetically if that's what happens.
Okay, you do that. And while you're doing that, Chris, what did you think I was going to bring up as far as marketing?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about me saying we'll play for poutine.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna mention that. So just so everybody understands, what you're talking about. Recently, Wonderworking was #1 on the countdown on Joy Radio in Toronto, the radio station that I'm the music director at, and also the morning show host. And of course, the post was done on social media. You guys put it up on your story, and you basically said you would play for free for poutine.
That's right. Just hold us to it.
Yeah,
so obviously poutine has got a big reputation worldwide for what we offer here in Canada, right?
It's gonna be a lot of poutine to get us to come to Canada.
Oh, okay. So now we're talking quantity of poutine as well. I thought it was just one serving.
We don't play for under 10 servings of poutine.
Right. That's got to be healthy, I'm sure.
Back to the brackets thing real quick, Ben. I was going to say the only downside to it is that Alexa thinks we're saying, or she can't pronounce it. She just says, here. She says, here's by all creatures. So
didn't even think of that.
That's on both songs. So here's by all creatures. All of our songs are called here's.
Here's awkward silence by all creatures. Yeah.
So somebody needs to correct that algorithm or whatever they look at. There must be something in the code that tells them when you see those brackets, it's not meant to be said.
She's just having an aneurysm for a second. Here's all creatures.
I wonder if the pause is longer the longer the song title.
Maybe.
Oh, there you go. I mean, the night the sky joined in is long enough to run that test. That's for sure.
There you go.
I'll try that against Wonderworking too.
Yeah, never thought of that. But so there's pros and cons. But I like it because it kind of sets your mark. It's unique to you guys. I don't see necessarily a lot of people mimicking it.
Good.
Because I think it's your little unique thing, right?
These are our brackets. Get away from our brackets.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then maybe they'll use different kinds of brackets or quotes or whatever else, right? So
that's right.
You can have the frilly brackets. We want this.
Is that what they call those? The frilly brackets?
That's what I call them.
Yeah. I think that's the Oxford official.
The official Oxford Dictionary title for it. Yeah, well, there you go. Well, listen, guys, I appreciate your time. It's been a real pleasure to chat.
Likewise. Thanks, James.
Have a good one, guys.
You
All right,
too.
you too.
Take care.
All right, talk soon. Okay,
Bye-bye. Chris Cron and Ben Thompson from All Creatures. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram, and keep an eye out for their Christmas single, The Night the Sky Joined In. It's time now for some artist advice. We check back with Mac Brock, who was our first guest on the show for 2021.
Apart from what we've talked about already, about prepare, know your stuff, plan, all that stuff, I think the biggest thing that I try to tell worship leaders is to really get involved and love the people that are serving on your team. I think it gets easy for us in church ministry to focus on people as the roles that they fill. And we tend to see people as just what can you do for the worship team? You're a guitarist. Okay, I just see you as the guitarist. And I just try to encourage people, really invest in your team, build a community of people, and love on them and create and build something that's beyond what's happening just, on the weekends or at church service.
Love the people serving on your team, invest in them, build a community. Wise words from Mac Brock. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of Between the Grooves. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so we can let you know as soon as new episodes drop. And if you could leave us a quick review on Apple Podcasts, that will help us reach more people. We're on Facebook and Twitter at Between Grooves. We'll see you next time.